In the quaint and idyllic village of Cold Ash, nestled in the English countryside, the Church of St. Mary stood as a testament to centuries of faith and tradition. The village was picturesque, with cobbled streets, thatched cottages, and rolling green fields. Yet, beneath this veneer of serenity lurked a sinister secret, known only to the church's grave digger, Edgar Hallow. Edgar Hallow was a man of peculiar habits and mannerisms, but his quiet and unassuming nature meant he was rarely given more than a passing glance. His gaunt figure, weathered face, and perpetually downcast eye seemed to fit the role of a grave digger perfectly. He had been tending to the churchyard for over 30 years, digging graves and maintaining the grounds with meticulous care. The villagers saw him as an integral part of the community, a constant presence at church services and village events. But once a year, Edgar would commit an unspeakable act that would go unnoticed in the tranquil village. Edgar had a ritual, an annual purge of sorts. He would choose his victim with the precision of a surgeon, studying the congregation for months beforehand. His criteria were simple: someone who wouldn't be missed immediately, someone whose disappearance would be attributed to a sudden desire for solitude or a secret trip. This year, his gaze had fallen upon a newcomer, a young woman named Sally. Sally had moved to Cold Ash to escape the chaos of city life, seeking peace and a fresh start. Her arrival had been welcomed with open arms, and she quickly became a familiar face at church and local gatherings. She was friendly, but not overly so, and preferred the company of books and long walks in the countryside to the bustling village social life. Edgar watched her from a distance, his plan forming with each passing day. The night of the church's midsummer festival, Edgar made his move. The village was alight with music and laughter, and no one noticed as Emily slipped away early, tired from the day's activities. Edgar followed her quietly, a small vial of a powerful sedative concealed in his coat pocket. As Emily reached her cottage, he approached her under the guise of friendly concern. "Sally," he called softly, "are you all right? You seemed a bit tired at the festival." She turned and smiled, her guard down. "Oh, hello, Edgar. Yes, just a bit worn out, that's all." He stepped closer, the vial ready in his hand. "Let me walk you to your door. The village can be eerie at night." Sally nodded appreciatively, unaware of the danger. As they reached her doorstep, Edgar offered her a flask. "A little nightcap to help you sleep," he suggested with a benign smile. Sally hesitated for a moment, but then took a small sip to be polite. The effect was immediate, the potent sedative quickly taking hold. She swayed on her feet, her vision blurring. "Edgar, I don't feel so." Her words trailed off as she collapsed into his waiting arms. Edgar moved swiftly, carrying her to the small outbuilding behind his own cottage, which he had prepared meticulously for this moment. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, a grim foreshadowing of what was to come. He laid Emily gently on a wooden table and bound her hands and feet with practiced ease. Then, he carefully placed her inside a coffin he had crafted himself, sturdy and airtight. As he closed the lid, a faint groan escaped Sally's lips. She was regaining consciousness, the sedative wearing off just enough for her to be aware of her surroundings. Panic set in as she realized her predicament, but her cries were muffled by the thick wood of the coffin. Edgar stood over the grave he had dug earlier that day, a deep, dark chasm in the earth. He lowered the coffin into the ground with a mechanical winch, his face devoid of emotion. The thud of the coffin hitting the bottom echoed in the still night air, a haunting sound that signaled the beginning of Sally's final moments. He began to shovel the cold, damp earth over the coffin, each shovelful a step closer to Sally's suffocation. Inside, Sally's panic grew as the air became increasingly scarce. She screamed and thrashed, but the coffin held firm. Her breaths became shallow, each one a desperate gasp for survival. Above, Edgar finished his task, patting down the last of the soil with a sense of grim satisfaction. He stood there for a moment, the weight of his actions settling over him like a shroud. Then, he turned and walked away, leaving the freshly turned grave as the only sign of his annual ritual. The next morning, the village awoke to the usual hum of daily life, unaware that one of their own had vanished. Emily's absence was noted, but not immediately alarming. Days turned into weeks, and her disappearance was eventually attributed to a sudden need to escape once again, a theory that fit her reclusive nature. Edgar continued his work at St. Mary's, his demeanor unchanged. The villagers never suspected the quiet grave digger, never imagined the horrors that lay beneath the serene facade of their idyllic village. Edgar Hallow remained a trusted and overlooked member of the community, his dark secret buried as deeply as his victims. And as the years passed, his annual ritual continued, a chilling reminder that even the most picturesque of places can harbor the darkest of secrets.